สนับสนุนโดยกรุงเทพประกันภัยสุดคุ้มชุดมนุษย์เงินเดือนโทร022858888เปปทีนมากกว่าการให้มากกว่าความผูกพันความรู้สึกดีๆที่มีให้กันทุกวันเปปทีนพี่กิฟฟรีนคุณเองก็เป็นเจ้าของได้
How do you teach small children as well at school about lateral thinking?
Well, no, what we teach children at school is 6 hats and the court program, which is to do with perception.Lateral thinking we'd probably teach rather older children, but the court program is perceptual tools, which are ways of looking at things, looking at CNS, the consequence and sequel, looking at other people's view, OP view. And research in England shows that teaching this thinking as a separate subject improves performance in every subject, history, geography, science, improves performance in every subject by between 30 and 100% in every subject. Teaching thinking deliberately as a subject.
Thinking deliberately
as a subject. Thinking.
I thought we all think all the time. It's a natural process.
No, it's not. We just react all the time. We react all the time, and we do use analysis. Yes, okay, here's a situation, let's analyze it, what's in it. That's all the thinking we do. That's all the thinking we do. That's not enough.
That's not enough?
No, absolutely not.
So you would say we have to think some more? We have to be more creative?
We're not, creative is one side, but even perception, we need to be much more skillful on thinking.
In perception?
In perception, yes.
How is that?
Because if you look at something and you say it's this, and yet it's something else, you need to get in the habit of looking at it more broadly, more deeply, in many different ways, all these things.
You said you taught children perception as well, right?
Perception, yeah.
What do you teach them?
Before logic starts perception. And there's a mathematical theorem, Gödel's theorem, which says from within any system you can never logically prove the starting points. The starting points are arbitrary perceptions. So no matter how logical you are, you're dependent on your perceptions.
That's the starting point.
That's the starting point.
Of your logic, of your
yes, exactly,
logic.
Exactly.
So you're trying to say that if we can change our perception,
absolutely,
then the whole logic would change as
absolutely.
Well somehow.
And culturally, for centuries, we've always said our logic is the most important thing. It's not.
It's the perception.
Perception is, yes, perception.
It will lead to new solutions. It will lead to many other things.
Yes, better understanding and all that sort of thing. Yes.
When I see companies, say Apple, they just tend to be more creative than others.
Well,
how do you explain that?
Well, first of all, their leadership is more motivated to be creative, and that makes all the difference. You see, in creativity, there's 2 sides. There's the energy and motivation, and there's the skill. Now, if you have the energy and motivation, even if the skill is not very high, you can do a lot of creativity. On the other hand, if you have no energy and motivation, even if your skill is high, you won't do much.
Mm-hmm. So you need both?
You need both.
So which companies in the world actually use your
it's difficult to say, but I'll tell you an interesting story. When Nokia, the phone company, started, Nokia was a company in Finland making timber and paper. I think mainly toilet paper, in fact. When they started, they invited me to Helsinki to talk to the whole group, 70 people. I gave them a day's seminar on creativity. They listened, and as a result, they grew and grew and grew. Now they are by far the biggest in the world, with 34% of the world market. This is from a tiny country with only 5 million people and no history in electronics. But because they learned to be creative, huge success, huge success.
You mean if they learn the skill, anyone can learn this skill?
Anyone can learn the skill, yes.
And when you learn that skill, you can go way beyond.
Yes.
That's what you're trying to say.
You need to practice, like any skill, you need to practice and develop the skill, yes.
Can I say people who work as fashion designers or directors, they tend to be more creative?
Well, you see, there's different sorts of creativity. There's creativity, artistic creativity, which may depend on certain aesthetic senses and so on and so on. Interestingly, in the area of art, that part of art which has shown the most use of my work is music. Music. People like Peter Gabriel, Pet Shop Boys, Eurythmics. In fact, on Eurythmics' best-selling album is written thanks to Edward de Bono. Because in music you start from nothing, zero, and you've got to create everything.
So if we follow your lateral thinking,
they use some of my processes, yes.
We'll be able to come up with something more creative.
Yeah.
Can you give us another crash course?
Well, one very simple one is challenge. You see, very often, if an idea is good and has always worked, we never think about it. We say, that's fine, we don't need to challenge it. Challenge means looking at even the best ideas and saying, yes, that's fine, but let's challenge it. Because otherwise there's what I call blocked by openness. Imagine you're going along a road and there's something in the way, you're blocked. Now imagine you're going along a very familiar road, you're actually blocked from taking a side road. Because the main road is so open, you never take a side one. So very often in our thinking, there's a concept of perception we have, which is so strong, we never consider alternatives. So in 1970, I was doing work in London for Shell Oil, and I said, when you drill an oil well, you drill an oil well straight down, and I have done that for 80 years. I said, let's challenge it. Why don't you drill horizontally when you get to the oil seam? They said, we can't do it because the drill will not go around the corner. I said, yes, it will. If you use a hydraulic head, you pull it round. Today, almost every oil well in the world is drilled that way, because you get between 3 and 6 times as much oil as from traditional oil well. But from 80 years, everyone has been happy drilling it like that. So challenge. Challenge says, yes, we've always used this idea, it's very good, but for the moment, let's put a block on it and explore others.
Use it in our everyday life?
Well, different situations arise. We learn to look at them differently. You need to make an effort. You need to say, I need some ideas there. Now let me use one of these techniques, and so on.
It's just like brainstorming, right?
No, it's not brainstorming, because brainstorming you need groups and people. This you do individually.
Okay, I can brainstorm alone.
Oh, okay, but it's using deliberate techniques: provocation, random entry, challenge, concept extraction, so on. I'll give you an example of concept extraction. A mayor of a small town in Australia came to see me. He said, we've got a problem with commuters. They drive into town, they leave the car there in the street all day. No one can park in order to shop. Should we put in parking meters? That's very expensive and so on. I said, now what's the concept here? Concept, we want people to limit their own time parking. I said, we can do that much more simply. You can park anywhere you like, for as long as you like, provided you leave your headlights full on. Now, you're not going to leave your car there for a minute longer than you need because you're running a battery flat. And works very well.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that?
This technique. What's the concept? The concept is, how can we get people to limit their own parking?
You have traveled all over the world. Is there any particular country or countries that tend to be more creative than others?
Well, it's very difficult to say, but the research shows that, for instance, in the last century, I think 66% of the major ideas in science and technology came from the United Kingdom, and only 22% from the United States, which is surprising because the United States is much bigger and much more money and everything. But the United States is very good at using ideas. So here's an idea, let's use it. But they're not so good at generating ideas.
What about companies?
Well, companies, it's difficult to say from the outside what happens on them. Obviously, people like Xerox have been successful, IBM has been successful, and so on. Yes. Apple, yes.
I heard that you met with the Thai Prime Minister. What did you advise him?
Well, we're talking about the Creative Thailand idea, and saying that's fine, but creativity is not just artistic creativity. Creativity is how you design things. May design a car park, may design this, may design that, and so on. Then also I have a big project, which is that some years ago at the United Nations I tried to set up a group to develop new possibilities, new ideas.